Studio Ghibli is one of my favorite animated studios ever. They have brought so many magical worlds to my life and completely changed me. In fact, most of their films are some of my favorites of all time. Which now they're going to the foray of 3D animation with Earwig and the Witch. And I got a lot to say about this one. What's going on, buddy? Welcome back to a brand new movie review. Today we're going to be discussing Earwig and the Witch, the brand new Studio Ghibli film that I have been interested and looking forward to because, you know, it is their first foray into the 3D animated world. This is nothing that they've done before, but what they have done before is given us many magical worlds that have absolutely sucked us in and spit us right back out into our normal world, and we're like, how do you go about living now after experiencing that? More or less, that was what Earwig and the Witch was looking to do. This is the story about an orphan girl, Earwig, who is adopted by a witch and comes home to a spooky house filled with mystery and magic and much more. A little behind the scenes stuff. Flat out, guys, if you guys are new here, though, make sure to hit that like and subscribe. And if you guys enjoy anime, movies, geeky stuff, TV, whatever it is, if you're a geek like me, this is the channel for you guys. Hit that like and subscribe button so we can keep talking movies over here on a daily basis, as well as comment down below and let me know your guys' thoughts. How excited are you for this one? Are you optimistic? Are you still excited for this one? Let's talk about it. Going into this film, I was optimistic on it because even though I wasn't a big fan of that trailer or in general just a fan of the animation, I love this studio. I love a majority of their films. I have a blast with each and every one of them, and I was looking forward to see how this film would be. But sadly, and I really hate to say this, but sadly, this is Studio Ghibli's worst film yet. And I don't think it's the worst animated film I've ever seen, but it's very minute and very much missing a lot of content. And in fact, it left me, after I finished the film, I felt very unsatisfied after watching this movie. But I will give it what credit's due. I don't think this film is for me. I think the best animated films, personally, for me, are the ones that adults can also watch, but also kids can very much enjoy. For me, that's the type of best animated film. But here's the thing. Earwig and the Witch very much feels more or less like a kid's film than anything else. And I think if I had kids, they would probably enjoy this. Absolutely. They would be smiling, they'd laugh, they'd have fun. And I had some of those feelings for me. Coming off the film and seeing what studio it is from, I expected very much more from this, especially when it comes down to its story. In general, let's talk about my pros, because like I said, this isn't the worst animated film I've ever seen, because there are actually decent moments to this, and one of the biggest shining spots of this entire film is Earwig herself. What a fantastic character. That was very well written into the story, very charming, very charismatic. I loved Earwig, and I just loved every moment that I got to spend with her. I think she was so charming and delightful in the way that everything was going about, and in general, she reminded me of when I was a kid, and I really loved this character in particular, in the way and just in the trouble that she gets into. As well as the music throughout here was actually quite splendid, and in general, the world that they started to build up was really unique. There's this cool little undercove of witches that I really much wish they would have dove into even more, because it felt like that's what they were going to, and they didn't, and I feel like there was so much more on the underlying surface that just seems so cool. The surface level attempt of what they were giving us, I did very much enjoy the world, and one character in particular, the Mandrake, some of the coolest things in this film all happens to do with this one particular character. And even going into this film, I actually thought the thing I was not going to like the most was the animation, and that wasn't even my biggest issue. I think the animation's fine. It looks cheap here and there, but I do wish that they would just stick to the hand-drawn animation, because I think the 3D animation looks a little bit cheap in the facial animations, and especially when the characters talk or the lip syncing going about. Because I watched the sub version, but I also did check out some of the dub version, and some of the lip syncing just doesn't seem right with the voices. Even with that said, I think the animation really excels within the background detail, and especially the backgrounds of the house, this little area where they make witch potions, and in general, all of that nature, everything looks very beautiful. And even the opening shot of this film is stunning. I was like sitting there like, okay, this 3D animation might really be pulled off. And at times it did feel a little bit cheap, and I'm wondering what decision was made to actually do this as a 3D animated film, because I feel like it probably would have just worked really good in 2D. I mentioned I'm only in the middle on that. That's kind of where I'm just like, oh, you know, you could have done one or the other. That's not my issue with this film. My biggest issue with this film is the way that it left me unsatisfied after watching it. You know, I like the main character, But overall, nothing really happened in this film till the last 20 minutes. And even by then, it's only an hour and like 25-minute film. And when it ended, it was a giant cliffhanger. And I don't expect this to get a sequel. I didn't think it was going to be a sequel. I thought it was a one conclusive movie. And if you want to do a sequel, that's okay. But at least leave me a little bit more satisfied with the ending. It felt like it just ended. In fact, when the screener had ended, I jumped up and looked through the whole thing because I felt like something was missing. It feels rushed. It feels like I missed out on something, and at times, it just feels like a straight-at-home movie. Animation, yeah, it's not even the worst part. Stood up and went, what the hell? Very much just felt unsatisfied from the ending because, again, it is a cliffhanger, but it's one that doesn't feel earned. It doesn't feel like it belonged there because, again, it opens up the story in a really cool manner, and it never really goes back to that central moment until the very end of the film. And I mean the very end of the film. You don't get any answers to any of the questions that were given to you through a majority of this movie. There are a ton of answers that I definitely need to know that were not answered at all throughout this. Yes, they could easily put out a sequel, they could easily do this, but sequels are not guaranteed. And when it comes to Earwig and the Witch, and especially from Studio Ghibli, they've never done a sequel, so I didn't expect that. And again, maybe that's my own expectations getting about me, because I overall enjoyed moments in this. But even though I overall enjoyed moments in this, when you get to an ending that doesn't feel earned or satisfying, because nothing happened throughout the film until the very end of it, that's when I feel disappointed. That's what sucks, because this film became a total disappointment for me. And in fact, like I said, I think it's the worst Studio Ghibli film yet. That's not saying that this is the worst animated film ever. It's just not that great. Not good. It's not even fine. It's just okay. I think kids will very much enjoy this film. And I think Goro Miyazaki is an excellent director. But I really wish they would have just gone in a different way. And again, the animation really has nothing to do with this. It's totally the story that just baffled me in the way that it was written. Kills me to say that because I wanted to go into this film and be the one that was the underdog championing this movie. But I sadly can't. I'm looking forward to whatever Goro does next, and especially what Studio Ghibli does next. I know Hayao Miyazaki is coming out of retirement to do a film that is hand-drawn animation, which again, I don't really care. I just want another Studio Ghibli film. I want more of their films. I love diving into these worlds, and while I had an okay time with Earwig and the Witch, I sadly have to give the film a D+. Thank you guys again so much for clicking on this. You guys are seriously all the best. Maybe you guys feel a little bit different than I did. I'm really curious to hear your guys' thoughts on the ending of this film, because that's the one thing for me that very much bugged me completely and just left me completely unsatisfied for this film. Because while I was pretty much just mixed on it throughout, just, okay, this is enjoyable, whatnot, when it got to the ending, it just felt like a total slap in the face. And I was like, seriously, that's it? I've gone through cliffhangers before. I've been completely fine with some cliffhangers, but this one in particular just rubbed me the wrong way. But thank you guys again so much for clicking on this. You guys are seriously all the best. Make sure to comment down below and let me know your guys' thoughts. Can't wait to hear your guys' thoughts on this film. Head on over to Samsung Films on how to see films early. And of course, just a big thank you to you and a big thank you to my Patreon supporters, because without you, I wouldn't be able to do this.